D-U-Z, D-U-Z.
Put does in your washing machine. Take your clothes out bright and clean. When you does your wash, you'll sing. D-U-Z does everything.
Hello there. We've been waiting for you. It's time to play Truth or Consequences. Yes, Truth or Consequences, the show that does everything on the air, brought to you by Duz, the soap that does everything in your wash. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, knocking at your door with a carload of consequences, your man Saturday, Ralph Edwards.
Thank you, Harlow Wilcox, and greetings, party players. I feel so happy tonight, Harlow.
Because the new Miss Hush contest starts?
Well, yes, that's one reason.
Because Mr. John Laughing Boy Early, your Take It There contestant, said he would be gunning for you tonight?
No, I mean, I'm really happy.
Oh, because you found out that Duz is great in the wash tub?
Yes.
Right down the wash line, Duz does everything?
Yes, it just alters my whole wash day.
Wonderful. I'm happy, too.
I'm glad, Harlow. In a few minutes, Miss Hush. Right now at the microphone, we'll have a lady. Let's go over and choose one of these ladies. Turn on the microphone, will you, Johnny Pollock? And let's see now. Let's run down the line here. How do you do? What is your name, please?
Mary Donnelly.
Hello, Miss Donnelly. Where are you from?
Worcester, Mass.
Fine. There's a bunch of contestants here at the microphone. What is your name, please?
Mrs. Conway.
Miss Conway, where do you hail from?
Mineral Wells, Texas.
Mineral Well.
Yes.
Is that next to Crazy Crystals, or is that...
Right by it.
What is your name, please?
Mary Smith from Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Yes, and your name?
Mrs. Brown from Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, we have great representation here. You were first here. What is your name again, please?
Mary Donnelly.
Mrs. Donnelly. You were from...
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yes, well, that's the way it is, you see. Come on, let's walk back up to the microphone here. Somebody waxed the floor here tonight. Be careful. You want to get on this side, or shall we dance? Here you are, Mrs. Donnelly. Now, I'm going to have a question for you. We'll have a consequence, okay?
Sure.
What do you do in Worcester, Massachusetts?
Housewife.
I beg your pardon?
Housewife.
Yes. Have you been out here long in Hollywood?
No, just visiting my daughter.
Isn't that lovely?
2 weeks.
Yes. And she lives here all the time, I tell you.
Yes.
Did you come alone or without anybody?
My husband's with me.
Oh, that's good. All right, now I have a question, Mrs. Donnelly, and we shall have a consequence, okay?
Yes.
It's silly when you think of it. You and I, grown people up here, going to do something.
Old lady.
What?
Old lady.
Old lady? Oh, Mrs. Donnelly! All right. Don't go off and leave that running. That's a wonderful laugh you have there, Mrs. Donnelly. A question. This comes from Mrs. Mast of Los Angeles. Why is an adjutant the original mother's helper? Truth or consequences? I wish I'd looked over these questions tonight. Somehow they got by me. Say, WBZ will all be tuned in up there in Worcester and Boston, won't they?
Yep.
What? Yes, what you said. Why is an adjutant the original mother's helper? Because an adjutant is a stork. You see?
Oh.
Truth or consequence? That's what they call it. An adjutant is a stork. Isn't it, Ed Bailey? Yes. All right, you haven't told the truth, so you must pay the consequences. Now, Mrs. Donnelly, are you with me?
Yes.
All right. During our pre-air time period, we asked for ladies who could sing fairly well. You and Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Brown there, all of them, and Mrs. Conway volunteered, and we're all very good. But I think we'll start with you. We'll take you. For your consequence tonight, we want you to sing all the solo parts with the Los Angeles City College Glee Club. And here is the conductor of that fine aggregation, Mr. Alan Lanham. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alan Lanham of the Los Angeles City Glee Club. Mr. Lanham, I want you to meet your new soloist, Mrs. Donnelly.
How do you do, Miss Donnelly?
This is Mr. Lanham, Mrs. Donnelly.
Yes.
Yes. It's exciting, isn't it?
Sure.
Yes. Mr. Lanham, are there any instructions you'd like to give Mrs. Donnelly before she joins your group for the concert?
Well, before we start, I'd like to check on Miss Donnelly's ear.
Looks pretty good from here.
I mean her ear for music.
Oh, I see.
You see, Miss Donnelly, Mr. Cole there is going to play a few notes on the organ, and I'd like you to sing these notes, would you please?
Oh, this is going to be interesting, isn't it, Miss Donnelly?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Buddy Cole, play a few notes, will you, please?
Now, will you sing those notes, please?
I don't know them.
Oh, I I don't even think she needs rehearsal, this woman. I mean, she just has it on the tip. All right. Well, it's going to be all right. Now, you really have a beautiful ear and a lovely lobe, too, if I may say so, Miss Donnelly. Now, Mrs. Donnelly, here behind this curtain, we're all ready for the big solo part now with the Glee Club. Here behind this curtain is the Los Angeles City College Glee Club with 50 male singers. Pull the curtain, boys, and let's have the 50 male singers in the Los Angeles City College Glee Club. Aren't they fine-looking boys, Mrs. Donnelly?
Oh, sure,
They certainly are. All right. Now, get on this platform here in the center of the Glee Club, will you, Miss Donnelly? All right, that's the stuff. Now, you'll take all the solo parts. You understand? Doesn't she look lonely there? All right, you'll take all the solo parts. The conductor, Mr. Lanham, will point at you, you see, when it's your turn. Now, whenever the singers stop, you sing your solo. Here are your lyrics. The underlined part will be yours. Do you understand, Mrs. Donnelly?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Now, fine, the house. Are you ready, Mrs. Donnelly? Are you ready?
Yes.
Remember, all Worcester is listening in.
I guess they are.
Do you have any last words? Eh?
I hope you'll bury me if I die.
Now, you understand that you just sing what is underlined when the gentleman, Mr. Lanham, points at you. Yes, do you understand?
Yes, yes.
That's all you sing. Now, so you have to watch very carefully. Find the house lights dim, the audience quiets. The spotlight falls on Mrs. Donnelly's beautiful ear. The conductor raises his baton, and the concert begins. Now. This is the climax, Miss Donnelly. Look out.
All the way.
Mrs. Donnelly. Oh, you were simply superb. And here comes a horseshoe of flowers for you. A horseshoe of flowers. Oh, you left the horse in it, you guys. You shouldn't have done that. Look out, don't let it kick. There, isn't that beautiful? Yes, indeed. All right. Now, thank you very much. What did you think of her, Mr. Lanham?
Well, Irving Berlin never imagined his song would be sung that way.
No, I guess he didn't, really. Thank you, Mr. Alan Lanham, and thanks to the Los Angeles City Glee Club, one of the finest singing organizations in America. All right. Now, oh, wait a minute. Is there anything the members of the Glee Club would like to say to Mrs. Donnelly? All right. Thank you, Mrs. Donnelly, for being a wonderful sport. We'll see that you get a recording of your concert with the Los Angeles City College Glee Club. Here, too, is a Parker VS pen and pencil set plus $15 prize money. And for the club room of the Los Angeles City College Glee Club, we have this RCA Victor Console radio phonograph combination. Happy singing, Los Angeles City College. Thank you, Mrs. Donnelly of Worcester. Oh, me, oh, my. And look here. Here's a big red box that does, too. Something every woman wants always. Say, Harlow.
Yes, Ralph.
How'd you come out on that does sequence we worked up last week? Did you tour the local stores and check up on the does situation?
Did I? Ralph, it's terrific. You ought to hear the storekeepers. They've never seen anything move as fast as does.
Bet they think we're packing diamonds in those big red boxes.
Ah, yes. And the women, they say, hooray, just what I've been waiting for. My soap that does everything.
The soap shortage really taught folks there's just no substitute for does.
Right. Does really is different, folks. Different from any other leading package soap sold for wash day. Does even gives you more real soap suds, ounce for ounce, in your machine. Just a short washer run, and greasy black work clothes are shining clean. Streaked up towels gleaming white.
And when we say does everything, we mean everything. Now get this.
This same soap that's so tough on dirt is extra safe for the newest, gayest colors you wash. So make next wash day Does Day. Roughest and toughest, whitest and brightest. Does everything.
Very good, Harlow. Very good. All right. You might as well let him in, boys. Our Take-A-Dare contestant, Mr. John Early, has been pounding on our back door raring to see me. He's the fellow who was to get $1,500 if he could perform the most difficult dares you listeners sent in for 4 weeks. Now, last week, one of you listeners really handed Mr. Early a dilly. Miss Lorraine Asipa of Jamaica, Long Island, a very sweet girl and a very good sport, dared Mr. Early to marry her. Well, Mr. Early did what we anticipated. In fact, we felt absolutely sure Mr. Early would decline her proposal because of the serious nature of marriage, even though it meant forfeiting the $1,500. However, he said he was gunning for me, that he'd have it out with me here on Truth or Consequences tonight. So don't leave me now, boys, and let him in. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Early, late of Tennessee. Oh, now, wait a minute. Wait a minute now. Go easy there, boys. Wait a minute here. Oh, look out, Mr. Early. Take it easy. How do you feel, huh?
I feel like I lost $1,500. Man, what your listeners did to me.
Well, I'm glad he's laughing anyhow. He's on one side of the mic. Well, you said you could take any dare the listeners sent in, but I agree with you. They were a little rough with this dare, and we feel that perhaps you should be given another chance to win your $1,500. How about that?
That's real nice of you, Mr. Edwards.
With you, is that okay? Okay. All right. Now, here is your dare for next week. It was sent in by Miss Fanny Bell Holler of Columbus, Ohio. Many others sent in this dare, but Miss Holler's was first. Now, there's no need to take up any more time to tell you this dare, Mr. Early. We're a little behind in our timing. The instructions and the dare are in this envelope here. Just be at the place we've mentioned in the instructions at Truth or Consequences time next week. Now, is that fair enough?
Thanks a lot for the extra chance.
That's okay, boy. That's another...
Take it easy, will you?
No, well, it's the people that are writing it in. It's in that envelope there. Be hearing from you next week, Mr. Early, and I hope you win $1,500. Now, don't thank us for giving you another chance. That's all right. Goodbye. There he goes. By the way, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Close the doors. By the way, I might as well tell you, Miss Holler's dare, in the envelope is a round-trip ticket to Niagara Falls. The dare she sent in is to have Mr. Early go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Oh, man, wait until he reads Miss Holler's dare. You listeners really have him going. We'll have a microphone at Niagara Falls next week just in case he does show up. Aren't you listeners devils? Oh, man. Now here we go. Here we go. We'll tune it in. Whether he'll be there or not, we don't know. Now, here we go on with one of those Truth or Consequences surprise stunts that take place somewhere in the United States. At this very moment, in most parts of America, millions of people are eating dinner. And on the table at each of these dinners is a glass of water for each diner. Now, right now, Truth or Consequences is going to tune in some home in the United States where a husband and wife are having dinner. It might be your home, husband, listening to this show now, because the wife is in on the joke. We now are going to spring, and you aren't. Some wife is going to throw a glass of water in some husband's face right now at dinner somewhere in the United States, and we're going to be tuned in. If you are a husband sitting at a supper or dinner table with your wife, look out. It might be your wife who has this consequence and will douse you with water. All right, engineers, tune in the secret microphone, and everybody listen.
Or 5 o'clock, or witnesses 3:30.
Did you hear what Ralph Edwards said? What if I were the wife they were talking about? You
You didn't know about it. The wife knows about it.
What would you do if I threw this glass
For
of water?
$500, I wouldn't do it.
Well, hold on to your sense of humor, honey, because you're the husband. Careful what you say. The whole world's listening.
Oh, fine.
Ralph Edwards for putting me up to this. Are you listening to him? Go ahead, Ralph Edwards. You better explain fast.
Mr. Martin Bridges of Chicago, Illinois. What happened to you? What happened to you? There was a bit of laughing going on, but the splashing was going on at your table. Yes, we did put your wife up to this consequence, and I must say, Mrs. Bridges carried off her part almost too willingly, and the guests there got a kick out of it, too. What worries me are those wives throughout the country who maybe couldn't resist the opportunity to use this as an excuse to do the same thing to their husbands, you know. Oh, for you, Mr. Bridges, you're listening now, brother, and oh, man, for you, Mr. Bridges, we have a new Hart Schaffner and Mark suit, which you probably may need. And for you, I mean after the water there, and for you, Mrs. Bridges, a 14-carat, 21-jewel Bulova wristwatch, thanks to a surprise Mr. Bridges of 3116 North Long Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, and his good-natured wife. Oh, we'll be in Chicago ourselves. Truth or Consequences will be in Chicago, all of us in person at the Chicago Theater every day, 4 or more shows a day. Yahoo! 4 or more shows a day for 2 weeks, beginning October 31st through November 14th. Mark that date in your calendar. Chicago, October 31st, 2 weeks, Chicago Theater. Truth or Consequences. Hello. What's the name of the married couple at the microphone now? Yes. Who's first?
Mr. and Mrs. Al Janke, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Hello, Mr. Janke. Hello, Mrs. Janke.
Hello, Mr. Edwards.
Pleasure to have you here. How are things in Cincinnati?
Fine.
Good. Have you been out from Cincinnati long?
About 3 weeks.
Wonderful place, isn't it?
Fine.
Good. I'm glad you agree. Because we certainly agree with
We
Cincinnati.
love it out here.
Yes. Well, what brought you out? A train or?
No, we're on a convention, the American Trucking Association's convention, the 26th till the 1st of November.
The American what?
American Trucking Association.
A dance marathon?
I don't know.
Oh, trucking. You mean carrying?
Probably will be.
Yes. All right. Now, what'd you say, Mrs. Janka?
I said it probably will be.
Yeah. Where do you live in Cincinnati?
Wyoming, Ohio.
Wyoming.
33 Forest Avenue, Wyoming, Ohio.
That's.
Suburb.
Does Cincinnati go clear out to Wyoming? Oh, they're getting bigger.
A lot of Procter & Gamble.
Does everything.
Does everything.
All right. Now, who is the world-famous doctor who has never carried who has never carried a pill case? I'm going to look these over next time. For this, I love this. It's been for 2 years we've been trying to get this on. Who is the world-famous doctor who has never carried a pill case, prescription book, or any surgical instruments? Truth or consequences?
I'd never know that.
This coming from Texas, there's so much. Dr. Pepper. Well, you haven't told the truth, so you must pay the consequences. That's a goodie, isn't it?
That's good.
Oh, my, what a case. All right, now, Mr. and Mrs. Janka, you haven't told the truth, so you must pay the consequences. You said you were here in Hollywood on a little vacation, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, what are you doing? Oh, you're a trucking association. All right, how much longer do you expect to stay?
November the 1st.
Oh, you'll be here quite a while. You'll be able to take advantage of this then. Have you been through any of the movie studios yet?
No.
You haven't? Oh, my. Are you going to be free next week? All right, starting Monday and all through the week, how would you like to see them work at Universal, 20th Century, Metro, Paramount, Republic, and Columbia? Would you like that?
Very much.
Would you
Very
like?
much.
Yes, well, that's your pleasant consequence. Here are free passes for all 6 places, one for each day in the week. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Janka, on Monday, you will watch them work at Universal Termite Control Company. On Tuesday, it'll be Metro Furniture Company. Wednesday, Paramount Egg and Poultry Company. Thursday, Republic Towel and Linen Supply. Friday, Columbia Carpet Service. And Saturday, 20th Century Service Station. Isn't that exciting? Oh, isn't that going to be wonderful? Just think when you get back home to Cincinnati, you'll be able to tell them what went on at Paramount Egg and Poultry Company. Well, goodbye, Mr. and Mrs. Janka. You have fun, and so that you'll have some expense money. Here is a $50 savings bond. And here, too, is a big red box of Does. One soap that does all your wash. Roughest and toughest, whitest and brightest, does everything. Thank you, folks. Goodbye. So long to the Jankers. Now it's time. Now it's time for the new Miss Hush contest for the March of Dimes. Although the actual March of Dimes campaign doesn't start until January, we're starting our Hush contest in the hopes we can get the March of Dimes campaign off to a fast start on January 15th. No need to tell you what last year's Mrs. Hush contest did for the Infantile Paralysis Fund. Over $500,000 were contributed by you wonderful, warm-hearted friends who were anxious to join in the fight against polio. Incidentally, Mrs. Hush, Clara Bow, and I want to thank the March of Dimes and its president, Basil O'Connor, for the very beautiful statuette commemorating last year's Mrs. Hush contest that was sent to us. The plaque mentioned that it was a charity contest unparalleled in radio history, and certainly, thanks to you friends, it was. But Clara Bow and I both believe that the people who deserve the plaque are you listeners who contributed over $545,000, over $500,000 for this great worthwhile cause. This year, let's make it over $1 million for the March of Dimes in the Mrs. Hush contest, or Miss this year. Mrs. Hush, Clara Bow, is rooting for the new Miss Hush contest to double last year's amount. Now, we'll give you folks at home just about a minute to get your thinking caps on, and in that time, we'll announce another winner. Now, Does nominates this week's Dishpan Dozer. She's Mrs. H.W. Champagne of South Daytona, Florida.
Mrs. Champagne, congratulations. You've found Does everything in your dishpan as well as your wash. Does goes all the way, from cleaning up the greasiest pans to taking delightful care of hands. How come Does so much? Well, listen. Does is actually made richer than any strong granulated soap. Gives you real soap suds that stand up till the last dish is done. Changing to Does is a wise decision for hands, too. It can mean softer, prettier hands. So, start doesing your dishes. Does everything.
It sure does. Harlow Wilcox. Now, here it is. it is. Stand by for the voice of Miss Hush, a well-known American miss. Listen to her voice now, then we'll tell you how to enter the Miss Hush contest and be eligible for the first week's prizes. Listen to the first week's prizes. A 1947 Buick Super Convertible from the Howard Automobile Company with automatic top, white sidewall tires, radio, heater, fog lights, and everything. A complete Bendix home laundry with washer, dryer, and mangle. A round-trip ticket for two from any place in the United States via United Airlines mainliner 300 across the Pacific to Honolulu, and a suite of rooms for a 2-week vacation at the Matson Line's world-famous Royal Hawaiian Hotel, all expenses paid. And that's the first week's prizes on the Miss Hush contest. Now listen now to the voice of Miss Hush, and then hear how to become eligible for these Dream World prizes. Attention, here is Miss Hush.
Second for Santa Claus, first for me, 13 for wreath, 7 for tree. Bring me an auto, a book, and a ball, and I'll say Merry Christmas in spring, not in fall.
Who is it? Now, here's how you can become eligible for the prizes and at the same time help the March of Dimes Epidemic Aid Fund to fight polio epidemics in your community next summer. Eligibility for participation in the contest is not contingent upon your contribution, but you can assist in bringing the prize of good health to those afflicted and at the same time be eligible for a treasure of prizes yourself. Now, if you think you know whose voice it is, finish this sentence in 25 additional words or less. We should all support the March of Dimes because... And place your entry with your contribution, if you please, to the March of Dimes in an envelope addressed to Miss Hush, Hollywood, California. Miss Hush, Hollywood, California. Now make sure your name and address and telephone number are printed plainly on the upper right-hand corner of the paper upon which your entry is written. Do not include the name of Miss Hush in your entry. The March of Dimes has again selected 3 prominent citizens to act as final judges. They are Federal Judge J.F.T. O'Connor, Mr. Roy Naftker, head of the Los Angeles County chapter of the National Foundation of March of Dimes, and Dr. Veerling Kersey, superintendent of the Los Angeles City Schools. Now, these judges will select the first, second, and third best entry from the best entries chosen by the March of Dimes judging staff. Entries will be judged for sincerity, originality, and aptness of thought. All entries and ideas therein become the property of Truth or Consequences. None will be returned. Any resident of the United States may compete, except employees of Truth or Consequences, NBC, Procter & Gamble, their advertising agencies, and their families. The address again, Miss Hush, Hollywood, California. All entries received by October 27th will be entered in the first week's contest, and thereafter entries will be entered in each week's contest as received. Enter as often as you please. However, only one entry to an envelope. Now, here's how it works. You've just heard the voice of Miss Hush. You'll hear it again in a moment. Then, on the Truth or Consequences show, 2 weeks from tonight, we will telephone the entrant who submitted the best entry in the opinion of the judges. Now, if you are that person, and if you're by your telephone, you'll be asked to tell us the name of the well-known miss whose voice you've just heard. My conversation with you and your answer in identifying Miss Hush will be transcribed. If you're correct, you'll win the giant jackpot. And if you're wrong, the sender of the second best entry will be called. And if the second is wrong, the writer of the third best entry will be telephoned. The same procedure will be followed each week until the voice of Miss Hush is identified. The senders of the first, second, and third best entries will be called, but if the first called answers correctly, the other 2 will not be called. If the sender of the second best entry identifies Miss Hush, the third will not be called. The contest terminates when one of the entrants identifies Miss Hush. The prizes by that time may have mounted to unbelievable heights. You remember what happened last year, don't you? Enter each weekly contest as often as you choose. However, only one entry to an envelope. And remember to include a money contribution, if you please, for the March of Dimes in each envelope. Now, give from your heart. Let's all get the March of Dimes off to a fast start by being able to hand them a big check when the campaign starts January 15th. If you're not at your phone, for any reason, when we call you on the broadcast, you automatically will be eliminated. And this is important. Do not include the name of the woman you believe to be Miss Hush in your entry. Do not write the name of Miss Hush on your entry paper. We'll find that out when we call you from this microphone. Now, remember, finish the statement. We should all support the March of Dimes because, in 25 additional words or less, and mail to the following address, Miss Hush, Hollywood, California. The writer of the best entry will be called on the telephone on Truth or Consequences 2 weeks from tonight. Saturday, November 1st. Now, it's important to remember that listeners in the Eastern Time Zone will be called at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Those in the Central Time Zone will be called at 7:30 Central Time. Those in the Mountain Time Zone at 6:30 Mountain Time. And you listeners in the Pacific Time Zone will be called at 5:30 Pacific Time. Each Saturday during the contest, the calls will be made at the same time. All entrants called during the contest will be allowed only one answer to the identity of Miss Hush. If no one is correct one week, 3 more fabulous prizes will be added to the jackpot the following week. Now listen, here she is again. Miss Hush, speaking from somewhere in the United States. Miss Hush, would you recite the jingle clues again, please?
Gladly, Mr. Edwards. 2nd for Santa Claus, 1st for me, 13 for wreath, and 7 for tree. Bring me an auto, a book, and a ball, and I'll say Merry Christmas in spring, not in fall.
Who is Miss Hush? Oh, man. Next week we'll hear from Miss Hush again. Who is this very famous woman? It's going to begin driving us crazy again, for another few weeks and all. That's going to drive me crazy trying to keep it a secret. That's the hardest job about this master of ceremonies business, is to keep it a secret, but we will. Now get your letter in immediately and become eligible for the 1947 Buick Super Convertible with automatic top, white sidewall tires, radio, heater, fog lights, and everything. From the Howard Automobile Company, a complete Bendix home laundry with washer, dryer, and mangle, and a round-trip ticket for 2 from any place in the United States via United Airlines Mainliner 300 across the Pacific to Honolulu, and a suite of rooms for a 2-week vacation at the Matson Line's world-famous Royal Hawaiian Hotel. All expenses paid. Listen in next week on Truth or Consequences for Miss Hush. Oh, boy. Here we go again. Well, Sud's alive. Incidentally, next week you'll hear her name, and you'll hear her voice again, I should say, and you'll also hear that jingle. That's the important thing. Get the clues. Sud's alive. It's our happy-go-duzzy singers and their merry washing machine. Hello.
D-U-Z, D-U-Z.
Put those in your washing machine.
Work clothes come out oh so clean.
White things white and colored things bright.
D-U-Z does everything. From the roughest and the toughest to the whitest and the brightest.
No soap quite like does before.
Does is different, does more.
When you does your wash, you'll sing.
D-U-Z does everything. D-U-Z, D-U-Z, D-U-Z.
That was sensational. Kids, that was good. Oh, boy. We're on. The grand prize winner tonight was the lady who sang with the Glee Club, Mrs. Donnelly from Worcester, Massachusetts. There you are. A $25 savings bond, Mrs. Donnelly. There you are. And, folks, the truth is, we must all help conserve food. Do your part. No meat on Tuesdays. No poultry or eggs on Thursdays. Save a slice of bread every day. This is Ralph Edwards sending you dozens of good washes. Until next week, when again we hear from Miss Hush and find out if Mr. Early really is going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Good night, everybody!
Money, money, money.
$25,000 in cash.
$10,000 cash, first prize.
281 other cash prizes.
Somebody's got to win them.
It's a contest to celebrate the new improved Dream Shampoo.
Wake up your hair, wake up ideas.
Try new improved Dream. See your hair shine its brightest. Compared to dulling soap shampoos, new Dream reveals up to 33% more sheen.
$25,000 in prizes. Get an entry blank at your dealers for complete information.
Get new Dream for complete inspiration.
This is Harlow Wilcox speaking for Procter & Gamble, the makers of Does. Ralph Edwards' Truth or Consequences came to you from Hollywood, Chicago, and Miss Hush's Hideaway.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.